Hello, my name is Jacqueline Pollauf, and today I wanted to talk about harmonics in repertoire. Now, a harmonic is the technique where you use either the base of your hand or the knuckle of your hand to split the string in half and just play the top half of the string for a bell-like sound. And this is considered a standard technique on the harp. It comes up in a lot of different ways. If you've never played a harmonic before, I have an entire video that's an introduction to harmonics and explains what's happening and technically how to approach harmonics and different types of harmonic combinations that you can play, all of those kinds of things. So I'll put a link to that below in the description. But instead, what I wanted to talk about today are some pieces of repertoire that feature harmonics. And I'm going to start with a beginning level piece and then work through to more advanced level music, just to give you some ideas. So hopefully whatever level you're playing at, you can find a piece that features harmonics that you might enjoy learning. Or perhaps this will give you some ideas for pieces that you could go back to review, maybe something a little simpler with harmonics, or maybe some aspirational pieces that you might hope to learn someday. But I'll talk through each of these pieces that I've picked out and play little passages of them and talk about the ways in which they use harmonics. I thought we'd start with Falling Leaves by Ruth K. Inglefield, which is a beginning level piece playable on a lever harp. And I think this is a great choice for a first piece of music to include harmonics, as it's really straightforward. In the second half of the piece, there's a passage of 8 measures, where in each measure the left hand is playing a single harmonic as the melody, while the right hand accompanies with a simple arpeggio. I'll go ahead and play a little portion of it. And what I particularly like about this as a first piece, including harmonics, is that the left hand, once it plays the first harmonic, is just going to play a whole chain of them, so you don't have to worry about finding the center of the string again. Once you're in that general spot, you can just keep your hand there and focus on moving from one harmonic to the next. So this is Falling Leaves by Ruth K. Inglefield. Next, we have another piece by Ruth K. Inglefield. This is Berceuse, which is written at a late beginning level. And I particularly like this one because it has a mixture of left hand and right hand harmonics. The last piece we were looking at, it was all left hand harmonics. And many people learn their harmonics for the two hands separately because the technique is so different between using the base of the hand and the knuckle. But in this piece, harmonics are just kind of sprinkled around at the end of phrases. So it is a little more challenging than the last one because you have to continually move from a standard playing position to a harmonic position. You're going back and forth with both hands. And then there's also this mixture of harmonics in the left hand and harmonics in the right hand. So I'll play a few bars of this. And that's really the idea. It's just alternating between these standard 3-finger arpeggios, some with thumb slides, and then these harmonics throughout the piece. So Berceuse, also by Ruth K. Inglefield, is another great choice. I thought that next we'd look at Concert Etude by Suzanne MacDonald, playable on a lever harp and written at an early intermediate level. And this piece is really a study in arpeggios, but the last few measures have a passage of harmonics and glissandos at the same time. So in the previous couple of pieces, when there was a harmonic within the piece, that was the only thing happening. You only needed to focus on playing that harmonic on that beat. But in this piece, you have to coordinate the harmonics in the left hand with a passage of glissandos in the right hand. So there's the coordination between the hands in addition to playing the harmonics. Definitely up a level from what we were just looking at. So I'll go ahead and play these last few measures of the piece. a classic harp technique, actually, to combine harmonics and glissandos. I think because they're both kind of ethereal sounds, it's really beautiful. In practicing that, of course, you could practice the harmonics first, just by themselves, and focusing on having a good hand position and finding the center of the strings really well. And then you could even add the glissandos in gradually, maybe play the entire passage of harmonics, but just play the last 2 glissandos and then the last 3 glissandos and so forth. I think that would be a great practice approach for this concert etude by Suzanne McDonald. Next, we have an intermediate level piece, playable on a pedal harp. This is the Minstrel's Adieu to His Native Land by John Thomas. And this work is a set of theme and variations. The second variations uses harmonics in a really virtuosic way. Frequently, when pieces include harmonics, they might include them as sort of a special moment, like we were just looking at, that was really a snippet of melody to end the piece. Sometimes also harmonics are used kind of almost decoratively, like a little added glitter or something within a piece. But for this variation, Thomas is using harmonics as the main substance. So the left hand in this variation does nothing but play harmonics, the entire melody in a chain of harmonics, and the right hand is really accompanying and echoing those harmonics. Here's a few measures. So in practicing this, there's a lot to think about because there's all the standard things with harmonics and trying to find the center of the string and everything, but also it's moving pretty quickly, so your hand has to jump from harmonic to harmonic really smoothly. And one thing that comes up frequently for people working on this piece is that their hand starts to get tight or stiff. A lot of times that's just because someone is trying so hard. So many people, when they play harmonics, they want it to come out really beautifully. So without even thinking about it, they're putting some extra tension in their hand as they're trying so hard to bring out the sound. So it can be a great idea just to kind of loosen up the hands and make sure that they're feeling really relaxed before playing the harmonics and trying to make sure that there's not anything extra happening within that. Another similar kind of practice approach for this particular variation, because it's pretty long, it's a lot of harmonics by the time you've played the whole thing, would be just to add some fermatas or pauses throughout it to kind of rest and regroup and come back to that really nice relaxed harmonic hand while practicing, so that that's programmed in and it doesn't just feel like you're hopping on a treadmill and have to keep going through the entire variation while learning it. So the Minstrel's Adieu to His Native Land, a great choice for some virtuosic harmonics. This next work is an early advanced level work, playable on a pedal harp. This is the Siciliana, written by Respighi and transcribed for harp by Marcel Grangeny. Grangeny loves harmonics, and he uses them all over the place in his works. In a lot of different ways. And in this piece, harmonics just keep coming up in various ways in various sections. I'm just going to point out a couple of them. In this first one, the right hand has the melody and harmonics, while the left hand is accompanying. So that's kind of a classic Grangeny thing to do, because in the surrounding phrases, the right hand is playing the melody just in single notes and octaves and things, and then Grangeny switches to harmonics to really kind of bring out a beautiful little phrase. Towards the end of the piece, there's a really complex section where both hands are playing 2 voices, so you have 4 voices total, and within that, the melody is in canon between the hands. So the right hand is starting the melody, then the left hand is starting it a couple bars later, but in harmonics. The left hand is also playing a bass line, so at times you have to play a regular note and a harmonic combined in the left hand, and then the right hand is also playing the accompanimental 8th note figure. So this is challenging on many levels. I mean, it's challenging to bring out a nice melody of harmonics in the left hand, especially when you have to add those extra notes at the same time, the regular notes combined with the harmonics. And then there's just so much going on overall that coordinating it all really is kind of tricky. So here's this from the final section of the piece. So This Siciliana, I think, is a great chance to work on a lot of different types of harmonics within a more difficult level piece. I wanted to end by looking at Pour le Tombeau d'Orphée, or At the Tomb of Orpheus, by Marius Flauthaus. This is an advanced level piece, playable on a pedal harp. And harmonics are really an important element of this piece in almost every single measure. First, I thought I would look at the fourth section of the piece, where the harmonics are being used in a pretty straightforward and standard fashion. The left hand is playing the melody and harmonics, and the right hand is playing glissandos. So really the same general approach as the concert Etude that we looked at earlier. But of course, this is a bit more challenging with the melody and everything, and also the pedals keep changing for each glissando. So as with some of the other more difficult examples, sometimes the difficulty comes from all of the surrounding elements, having to play harmonics as well as do all of these other things at the same time. But here's a few measures of that section. And it continues on from there with the melody gradually going lower and lower in the registers of the harp. So that's really a beautiful part. What I found even more interesting, though, is Flauthaus's use of harmonics in the accompaniment. And the accompaniment in this piece is really important. The right hand is generally playing the melody, but then the hands, in an intertwined way, are playing this very rich and rhythmically repetitive accompaniment throughout. And in almost every measure, towards the end of the measure, there's a low harmonic that's part of that sort of woven accompaniment. And it's interesting because if you play a harmonic really down low on the wire strings, like so many of these are, the sound isn't nearly as bell-like as it is up higher in the higher registers. So it's a very subtle sound that Flauthaus is using. It's just a slight color change within that accompaniment. I find it really beautiful. I also find it to be a bit challenging in this piece because you're constantly jumping around and then having to come back over and over to that low harmonic position. So your hand physically is making a big adjustment within each measure to reach up and out for that harmonic. So I thought I would just play a few bars of that. Continues on like that from there, and eventually the melody is added into that kind of rich accompaniment as well. So definitely a challenging piece for harmonics, but a beautiful and unusual use of them as well is this work, Pour le Tombeau d'Orphée. I hope this video has given you some ideas about repertoire that you can play with harmonics at many different levels and playable both on lever harps and pedal harps. And harmonics are just such a beautiful technique on the harp. I think they can really add a lot. And there's many more beautiful pieces out there, of course, that also feature harmonics. Good luck to you in your practicing.